Now can you hear me? Now can you hear me? You still can't hear me. You can hear me now. Okay. Can you hear me really good, or can you hear me very little? Am I loud, or am I not very loud? Okay, sounds good. Let's do one more thing, one more test. Let's see if you're hearing me through this microphone, okay? Let me know if you can hear what I'm saying right now. Can you guys hear me? Could you hear that when I was talking into the microphone? Loud and clear. Okay, so it is the mic. All right. Wow. Here we are. Penny, try going out and coming back in and seeing if that fixes things. Okay. All right. Well, I'll watch this back later on and I'll figure it out. See, I've got my laptop right here. And I've got a microphone here. I don't know if my laptop's mic is picking me up or if it's this mic. It's so confusing. Huh. Well, I'll mess with that later. Let's get on with things. Penny went out and come back in. Now she can hear me just fine and see me. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Monday live stream for The Last Symptom. It's good to have you all here with me. It's Monday, the 4th of November. Y'all ready for this week? Anybody got nerves? Anybody nervous about what's going on this week? What are your feelings about that? While you're typing that, I'll tell you what some of our topics are here from last week, which did not get recorded, so nobody got to see it. I wanted to talk about proactions versus reactions. I wanted to tell you a story about Ray Charles. This might all sound very familiar to you, Shamala, because you actually got to see the live stream last week. Nobody else did. And it didn't record, so it's lost to the sands of time. So I wanted to tell you a story about Ray Charles. I wanted to talk about feeling bad. And I wanted to talk about water as far as being self-sufficient is involved. Julie, you're traveling. Road trip or air travel? And how's everybody feeling? Penny says, no nerves about this week, except I'm in D.C. Oh my goodness, what are you doing in D.C. the day before a really contentious election? You stay safe. Don't underestimate the social unrest that might occur right there in the nation's capital. Julie's flying to Denver. You going to do any, I know it's for work, but are you going to do anything for fun while you're there? in Denver. What is there to do in Denver? I'm happy to have you folks here with me today. And I'm sorry that it's been several live streams in a row we've had trouble. But it's nice to be back here with you all again. You're going to see a couple old friends, work conference. Penny's not actually in Washington, D.C., the city. Not planning on going into the city. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of days. You know, it's very hard for me. You know, you hear me talking about being politically neutral. That's not easy for me. I have to really insist, demand that of myself. But it doesn't come natural to me. What comes natural to me is to observe, form my own opinions, want to take a side. That's what comes natural to me. And so this being politically neutral stuff is very difficult for me. I'm just like everybody else. I've got my opinions on the best way to do things and the best way things could be fixed and all that stuff. But then I have to remind myself that man is better at causing problems, creating more problems than they are at fixing problems. Well, Penny's going to be in Denver too. I've never been to Denver. Never been to Colorado. Have I not been to Colorado? I thought maybe I drove through Colorado one time. I gotta see where it's at on the map. Denver, Colorado. No, I've never been to Colorado. Oh, maybe I have. You know, I think when I went to San Francisco that I flew into Colorado and then took that Route 70 clear through Utah, Nevada to California. I think that's what we did. It's been a while. So I think I have been to Colorado, but I didn't stay long enough to really see anything or appreciate anything. Penny says I turned off the news 4 years ago and never looked back. You know, I did a lot of that myself too, turning off the news, and that's good advice. That's really good advice. That when you start to get anxious about world events and stuff like that, that might be a sign that it's time to distance yourself from all that information. If the information, you know, it's just like anything else. When it comes to our emotional health, if it's not more greatly contributing to your inner peace and contentment, then you got to get rid of it. Notice that it doesn't have to only contribute to your peace and contentment. It just has to more greatly contribute to your inner peace and contentment. And if it's not doing that, it's time to cut back on it or get rid of it altogether. And that goes for people, goes for the news or the news that you're consuming, or the types of movies you're watching, the types of music you're listening to. It's got to contribute more greatly to feeling good than feeling bad. Otherwise, it's impossible to be content. All right, well, you guys share with me anything that's on your minds while I talk. I'll keep checking the chat, and if I see something there that you guys want to talk about, I'll be happy to talk about it. I've got a few things here. Shamala last week heard me tell a story about, this is a true story, about Ray Charles. I saw an interview with Ray Charles. Of course, most of us know who he is, but he's a musician. He was a blind musician who played the guitar, not the guitar, the piano, and super talented musician. I mean, super talented. He had a voice like, it was just so unique and such quality, his singing voice. He could do all sorts of things with his singing voice that were just really beautiful as far as singing voices go. Anyway, I'm just saying that for the benefit of those who might not know who Ray Charles was. But I saw an interview with him on the Dick. What was the name of that? Dick Cavett, I think is his name. Hang on a second. Oh. Dick Cavett. So this is back in like the 70s. You know, Johnny Carson was a real famous talk show, and then there was this Dick Cavett, who was also had his own talk show. I saw Ray Charles on the Dick Cavett show, and Dick Cavett asked Ray Charles, if you had an opportunity, if somebody could grant you vision, would you want eyesight? And Ray Charles gave the most interesting answer. He said that if he could be given eyesight for just a day, so that just long enough for him to see like his grandchildren and stuff, that he would like that. But only if he could go back to being blind again by the end of the day. Now, the reason why that was so interesting to me is because Ray Charles doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about. What would the reality be if Ray Charles was suddenly granted his eyesight? What would the reality be? Would he be willing to give that up in reality? Not in a million years. Not in a million years. So what does it mean when he gives an answer like that? It means he's speaking in complete ignorance. This is a person who doesn't know what it's like to see with perfect vision. He doesn't know what that's like. So the best he can do is imagine what it's like. So he's thinking about the whole thing in ignorance. It's like trying to, well, think about like recovery. It's like somebody trying to tell you that you could be content, but you've never experienced contentment. And so the best you can do is only just imagine what it might be like. Right? So Ray Charles saying he wouldn't mind having sight for a day or two, but then would prefer to go back to being blind. Here's the other thing that's remarkable about that. People are comfortable with what they already know, and they're not comfortable with what they don't know or they haven't experienced yet. And sometimes people prefer comfort over the opportunity for something much, much better. So that's two lessons that I draw from that. From Ray Charles saying, yeah, I wouldn't mind having my sight restored for like a day or two, but then I'd like to go back to being blind. First of all, speaking in complete ignorance. He doesn't know because he's lived so long without sight. There's no way for him to know what that's really going to be like, what a rich reward that's going to be. And so he undervalues it. And I did that. I did that with people wanting me to get healthy. I was a blind man, and I'm a blind man thinking about what it would be like to be healthy, but I'm thinking about it in the wrong ways. Why? Because I've never been healthy before. I don't know what that's going to really be like. So the best I can do is try to come up with my own imaginary concepts of it. And I'll tell you what my imaginary concept of being emotionally healthy was. Rigid, boring discipline, never having any fun, being a stiff, being a sourpuss, being really almost robotic in life. Those were my concepts. So when somebody says, hey, you need to work on getting healthy. Well, is there much appeal to being healthy if my only concepts of it are the things I just described? Robotic, boringly disciplined, not being able to let loose and have fun ever, and things like that. No, of course not. So I'm already discouraged from even trying because on some level, I don't believe it's possible. But then on the other hand, any inclination I might have to try, I'm getting discouraged from it because my concepts, the way I imagine being emotionally healthy, that's all I got. I can't truly understand the nature of what that's going to be. The only thing I can do is trust the people who are telling me it's going to be better than what you've got, than what you're experiencing right now. That's the best I got. I have to trust that this person knows what he's talking about when he says it's a lot better than what you got right now. Ray Charles, believing that he would prefer to be blind, even after getting his sight for a while. We know that's not true. He would never prefer to be blind. It's just an example of him undervaluing this thing that he really doesn't have a concept of. So that was one lesson I learned. And then the second lesson that I learned, or the second thing it made me think about, these are things I'd already learned, but these are things I thought that this Ray Charles story really captures these 2 points really well. The other thing is comfort with what people already know, even when it's bad for them, even when it's a detriment to them, even when it's creating a great, what's the word I should use? Disadvantage. So even though it's creating a great disadvantage for them in life, it doesn't matter. It's what they know. And they're comfortable with what they know. What they don't know is hard to imagine, and it's scary. It means going and learning something new, and that's scary. Let me see if you guys are commenting it, or if I'm just not seeing it. You're awfully quiet out there. Nope, looks like we're good. Okay. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that story about Ray Charles? Do you draw any comparisons in your mind with your own life experience or anything that you can identify with? The reason why Ray Charles would say something so stupid, so ignorant. Alicia's contemplating. Good. That's what I want. Give us contemplate it a little bit. Alicia says, I wanted to see if I preferred living out of the U.S., so I tried it. You know, we can't desire what we can't imagine. Keep that in mind. You can't desire what you can't imagine. Alicia says the harder thing for her than living outside the U.S. was believing that she could enjoy being single romantically because I never had been before. So I imagine misery about being single. Are you finding joy in being single? That's what you're describing is real common. It's normal for unhealthy people. But I'm just wondering what the reality has been. Alicia says she loves it. There's a lot of freedom to it, ain't there? So much more adventurous and so many more possibilities. Alicia says it took something to get there. Yeah, I can imagine that. I imagine that you had some growing pains at the early parts. So Penny says, could he have made that statement to overcompensate for or not admit that being blind is a disadvantage? Maybe his ego didn't want to admit. It's possible. I'm not a mind reader. I can only go by what he said. As far as like me being able to reach inside of him and exactly know everything he was feeling and thinking when he said it, of course I can't do that. So it's a good possibility. There's a possibility of that he was just being proud and didn't want to reveal or express any weakness. Alicia says that my worth was attached to being chosen by men. Well, then I'm kind of like your male kissing cousin there in that regard, because it was the same way for me, but it was with women. You know, one thing that occurred to me when I was really active, sexually active, super sexually active. It did occur to me, and this was happening in the early part of my recovery. You know, I've told you that I wouldn't get in any committed relationships, but I was active. I was a Mr. Don Juan, you know. But and I don't encourage that. For now, I wouldn't encourage people to do that. It's dangerous for one thing. It can create its own set of problems. But I will tell you this, that in my experience, it did get to a point where I'll tell you what, because we're talking about some things I would rather not share with the entire universe. We're going to go to supporters only right now on Locals. So consider joining us on Locals. That's where we talk about the real controversial stuff and the more private stuff like I want to talk about now. So I'm going to go to supporters only on locals. You can join us by going to thelastsymptom.com. Look in the free resources tab there, and there will be a link for how you can join our group. Another way is you can just go to thelastsymptom.locals.com and in your web browser, and we'll be right there. All right, so let's go to supporters only.